appreciate that. I love your energy. Okay. So, all right, here we go.
Okay.
Tristan, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I really was honored when you reached out and you shared your story. And then when we talked on the phone, there was just like, there's no way I couldn't interview you. You have such a contagious energy. And your story, like it's going to resonate with a lot of women. My first job was Victoria's Secret. And so when you shared my first job in college was Victoria's Secret. So when you shared part of your story, I was immediately like, yes, I know this. I know this space. So thank you.
Yay.
And you're here to tell us your story of just beauty and how you stepped in to your own beauty and how you carry it. And so where does your story start?
Well, I'd say my story starts with my parents, and where I grew up. So I grew up on Lake Mission Viejo, which is in South Orange County. And my parents I'm the youngest of three by 13 years. My parents put a lot of emphasis on the way that our lives looked. So right from the start, like I grew up with a very pristine home. We always had new cars. Like the littlest part of my memory that I have, the latest part of my memory I have is this is the foundation that it was built on. It changed as they divorced and the money changed and things like that. But
Mhm.
it was pretty apparent to me from a very young age that appearances mattered.
Mhm.
They cared very much about their own appearances. My mom, she got her boobs done basically as soon as I was born. And she was born, brunette, Jewish kind of a thing. And she transformed when they moved to California into this, blonde vixen, movie star kind of look. And she took a lot of pride in the way that she looked. And she was always kind of touching her body and touching her waist. And it was all about femininity with her. And, to this day, that's, when she thinks about herself, it's like this is the box that she's decided to put her in,
Mhm.
and that is what her power is. So I grew up playing with Barbies and blonde Barbies and things like that. And I remember from a very, very early age just deciding that beauty was blonde hair and big boobs. Like
Mhm.
that's just what it was, and white skin, to be quite honest with you. That I was not exposed to any other kinds of ethnicities or anything. So
Yeah.
that's just what I thought that it was, And I was very, even as a young child, I wasn't that, and I knew that that's not what the future held for me, or I thought so. Because I had very dark hair and I had a tremendous overbite, and I just didn't feel like I could ever match what that ideal was. But I was yes, sorry.
No, that's fine. You had
Oh,
already separated yourself from
yes,
beauty, decided
yes.
that what you were was not. Okay.
Right.
Beauty.
And already my way in had become imaginative play. So being raised as an only child and having those dolls, I was able to like act out these fantasies of being a beautiful person and having men want me, because that's what I had decided was the goal, was to be beautiful and to have men pursue you.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and even through Disney movies as well. I mean, I grew up like, idolizing the Little Mermaid and things like that. Let's not even open that door, how problematic Disney movies are.
Yeah. Yeah.
But everything was telling me that I needed to be beautiful and I needed men to want me. And then that was where my power was. And beauty was in being blonde and being shapely and having breasts, right? And I
Yeah.
remember going through the stores with my mother and looking at the mannequins. And I mean, I was so young, and seeing the mannequins and the figure of the mannequins and just being like, when will my boobs come? Like, when will my time come? Because to me, that's like where all the power was,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so then cut to, I had a medical issue in the and it was triggered by stress. I felt like an afterthought a lot in my childhood. And I was constantly like seeking attention from my parents. Like they were divorced and they were living their own lives. And I, would kind of get shuffled back and forth. But when I was with one of them, I never felt like the priority. And so I think around I think it was around fourth grade where I just like stopped breathing. And so I had to be hospitalized for that. And during that time, I had to go through a lot of treatments and get steroids and things like that. So this led to me, this was probably right before I was about to start puberty. And so because of the way that this happened and the things that were put into my body, I basically like stopped developing. And so, you know, I kept waiting, and I got my period at the right time. I got my period with all of my friends at 13, but like the boobs were not coming. And I was obviously panicked because as you kind of work your way up and you go into high school and things like that, like the girls that are developing, those are the ones with the power, you know, and I didn't understand how would I fit into this? How would I fit here? If, you know, how would I be Kelly Kapowski if I didn't have boobs, you know?
Yes.
So then it became about, I forget how I described this before, but I felt like I had a doctorate in making it look like I had breasts.
So you were taking matters in your own hands because they weren't growing. So you needed to create it.
Yes.
Or create the illusion of it.
Yeah. So I would get like, I found like the perfect combo relatively early. And it was this like hard, thick Wonder Bra. And then all of a sudden, everywhere you looked, they were selling these like chicken cutlets at this time in my life. Like they called them chicken cutlets. And they were like little plastic things that you would put underneath your boob. And they would raise your boob and make it look like you had, you know, better cleavage or whatever. But I was using it to be half my boob. And I would stick my boob in there. And then the bra was like really, really hard. And I mean, like nobody knew, you know, nobody knew. And when I would, you know, maybe hint at my insecurity or something like that, my girlfriends would be like, what are you talking about? You're fine. And I'd be like, no, I'm not. Because like, I only had like kind of like upper flesh of my breast to kind of work with. And so that was my entire existence, was thinking about this.
Wow.
And we're talking years of my life, years and years and years and years of my life, to the point of I had a boyfriend in college who I was madly in love with. I was also super Christian at this time. So we were not physical with each other. We were together for 2 years and we were not physical with each other. And I kind of used my Christianity and this like promise I had made to God to stay pure until marriage.
Virgin. Yeah.
Just be like, no, you know, I'm waiting, you know, and like garner respect that way. But the reality is that I was in such a prison of my own body, and I was so ashamed that I wouldn't even let this, you know, man who I was in love with, like touch me, see me, anything.
So we would prisoner in your own body. I mean, that is a line that just, you can just hear it echoing across the world, you know, because women are like, yes.
I was in so much pain. And the women I work with now, it's like, you know, I work with a lot of women that are prisoners in their own body because of obesity or there's so many things that can make us a prisoner in our own body. Mine was like a physical deformity that I was trying to hide. And so I went through that relationship. My father passed away. And then I finally, like one day I just like collapsed and with my mom, and I'm just like I can't do this anymore. Like the reason I wasn't, you know, with Paul in an intimate sense was because, you know, I just, this is what's going on with my body. I feel so ashamed. I feel deformed, you know, and so she was like, okay, well, let's do something about it. And so I got my first boob job at 21 as a virgin. And I just wanted to like close that chapter. I like never wanted to think about it again. And so I got my first boob job at that time. And then it was kind of going through the next phase for me was, who am I now? Now that I've dealt with this and I've gotten this surgery, like, how come I still don't feel beautiful? You know, there was still so much work to do there.
Yeah. In terms of mentally, emotionally.
mentally, emotionally, and then also still like realizing that because I literally had so much hatred for my body,
Yeah.
um, that I didn't, even when I got the surgery, all that hatred still remained.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I suddenly liked my butt or my legs or my arms or my face. Like there was nothing about me that I found desirable.
Yeah.
Especially when I compared it to what I thought my ideal of beauty was. I grew up like idolizing, I thought Kim Basinger was like the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. I grew up on Goldie Hawn, and there's all these blonde women in my life that I'm just like, if I'm not them, then what am I? And my mother tried to be supportive through this journey. I mean, she got me my first highlights at like 13, and it's so interesting because it's like, how do you decide as a mother, when you're helping and when you're hindering, are you feeding into this, or are you just trying to help her blossom and feel better about herself, and so having that kind of strange support, or going dress shopping, and it's just, where is that line? And that's something that I have really little daughters right now, but I think about this all the time because as we discussed in our preliminary, I was very conscious about showing my oldest daughter, like even Disney movies at first, because I was so scared that she was going to fall into this trap of like seeing these blonde princesses, and she has dark hair and dark eyes. And I was just so afraid that she was going to suddenly think that this was the ideal of beauty, and even now, because of Elsa, she wants blonde hair. She really wants blonde hair, and mommy has blonde hair. So this is problematic because this is me getting my hair done,
Yeah. Yeah. It's layered. So let me ask, did you ever sit down and talk to your mom about, these are the ideals that I had growing up, and it doesn't match, and it's part of the issue here?
Well, it's in a way I did, because with my older daughter, she would bring a lot of gifts over. And I had, I'm one of those moms that's like, no electronic toys. Okay. So my family had to kind of be creative. And so it was like, more about dolls and books and things like that. But the dolls and books that they would bring over, blonde, and they were white. And already I saw what was happening, and I like nipped it in the bud really fast. And I was like, I do not want you constantly bringing over blonde princesses to my daughter, because this is problematic, and this is why, and this is what I grew up thinking and believing. And it is my worst nightmare that this happens to Wilder, who is my daughter's beautiful little girl, and so we've had that conversation, and I've had to have it several times because it didn't get through the first time. Now we're fine, but this is almost 5 years later. So
yeah.
I think I don't think my mother is in a place to really go there and kind of own maybe what she's created, and her part in it, which is fine as long as she stops bringing my daughter blonde princesses.
Because her layers are probably really thick too. I mean, she left like a heritage behind,
right. Right. So when she was my mother and that entire side of the family is Ashkenazi Jew. My grandfather was in the service, so they lived in the projects in Ohio. So my mom grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, literally. And she was this dark-haired Jewish girl, and she would get her bike sawed in half. She would get kike written on her locker. She got jumped. She developed pretty early, so she got like jumped in the closet of the theater, and
oh my gosh,
like terrible things happened to her. And then I remember when she told me when she was 13 years old, she went to Sunday school with one of her girlfriends, and she learned about Jesus. And she decided that like that was the life for her, and she was going to renounce Judaism. And she went home and she like took her Sunday school so they gave her like a pendant or something, and they stuck it in her drawer. She stuck it in her drawer, and her dad found it. And her dad got so mad at her. He's like, if you're a Christian, you're not my daughter anymore. Like,
oh my gosh,
this kind of stuff. Yes. And then when she met my father, when she was 18, he actually had to convert to Judaism to marry her.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it was like a couple years later after they had my brother and sister, they had my brother and sister really early, but my dad was just like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And he like dragged in a Christmas tree and like, that was that. And they were Christian. But because of that, I grew up not knowing anything about the Jewish side of my heritage. My mom was so into not talking about it, like acting as if it didn't exist.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was just completely wiped away from her.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So many. That's so layered. So
right. It's so layered. It's like
when
she was at Sunday school, like, did she see this other life and was like, I want this life. And then this is Jesus. That's what that represented for her. Like, it's so layered.
Yes. So you had the boob job and you realized that there was still so much more work to do. Where did you, and you've talked about having your daughters and your job in life coaching and personal fitness. How has all of that kind of meshed together with the work that you've done to understand that, you have this beautiful spirit. All women have this beautiful spirit and it needs to be celebrated?
A couple of ways. So, in college, I was introduced to, and this is like 20 years ago, but I was introduced to weightlifting. Mm-hmm. And I liked it. I liked feeling empowered. Like I would go to the gym, I would do the workouts. Before that, I would like dabble in cardio. Mm-hmm. But there was something about lifting weights that I really gravitated towards. I felt like I do this, I'm in charge, and I feel stronger. I just felt empowered. And at that point, it was all about aesthetics for me, because I started connecting the dot of like, I understand that I need to build muscle in certain areas to get my body to change shape. But it was a very early type of realization. And then after I left college, I wound up moving to LA to pursue acting. So my entire life, I just wanted to be an actor. I went to a conservatory type school in Oregon to like learn classic Shakespearean theater. And I moved to LA to like pursue this. And I didn't have a good time doing it. And but whenever I would kind of move my way up and potentially have a part, it was always for like prostitutes and things like that. And so when I had meetings with potential managers and stuff, it was a lot to do with, and I had darker hair at the time and all that, but it had a lot to do with my body. Mm-hmm. Because actors in general are very tiny people. Mm-hmm. And I even compared to my mother and my sister, which is a realization I had when I was a child, but my body is just different than theirs. Mm-hmm. I have broader shoulders. I have a broader back. It's just how I'm built. Mm-hmm. And so then I kind of was like, okay, well, I'm going to delve more into the fitness side of it and the dieting side. So you name it, I did it. I mean,
okay, I just made a connection. So yes. Because you were a different size, you were cast as prostitute or, I mean, and so those that
were
dead
prostitute.
Yes. So those that were smaller were like
the ingenue.
That's wow. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. Sorry, interrupted.
Which is why also I get super excited with all the diversity that we see on screen now. I mean, I know I know people are like, we still have a long way to go, but we've come so far. Yeah. And we need to celebrate that.
Yeah.
We really
do. Yeah.
So, I mean, I tried everything. I was, I would starve myself. I would do, at the time it was about Atkins. So there was a lot of Atkins going on. Yeah. I would be running. I did it all. I noticed that I loved these girls' bodies that were doing yoga. So like I threw myself into yoga and I would do these 90-minute Ashtanga like yoga classes. And then it was from there that I was like, actually, my body started to change. And it was because I kind of was recalling that weight training that I did in college. And for many a year, it was about the dieting and the cardio and like moving as much as I could and eating the least amount of food that I could. Mm-hmm. But I did start to find strength and flexibility in yoga. And again, I love the way that made me feel.
Yeah.
And then that kind of went into helping a girlfriend with her boot camp because I was really interested in fitness and, trying to learn more and things like that. And, fast forward to me becoming like a title holding bodybuilder and, training other women and things like that, and really understanding everything there is to know about fitness and nutrition and going through that long journey of finally getting to a place of learning everything. And then even after you learn everything and after you win all the best body competitions, I still had work to do.
Yeah.
Still had to figure it out. And I think that for me, it really, the piece that really probably solidified everything for me was becoming a mother.
Okay.
That's like where I shifted in my entire idea of beauty. And it wasn't about me faking it. It wasn't about me saying like, just feel strong, and lift those weights. It was, you'll feel better about yourself. It was like, my message was actually like, you need to love yourself. And you not only have to do it for you, but you have to do it for who's watching you. And how do we get to that place?
Mm-hmm.
Then that's where the shift happened for me.
How do you get to that place? For you, how did you do that?
For me, I think it was really it's a slow it's a slow process, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because it took years to put all those layers there. Yes. So they're not going to just go away.
Yes. I honestly believe is that if you can find a way to conquer your body, if you are feeling imprisoned in your body in any sense, like I can't wear that because of my body in whatever way, then you are imprisoned in your body. Like that's the first step.
Okay.
That's the first step.
Because
so how do you release that?
In my brain, I'm like, I'm a pear-shaped body. I know I've said I cannot wear those. I can wear jeans, but I can't wear those jeans because I'm a pear-shaped body. So, okay, keep going.
That's ridiculous. Am I allowed to cuss on here?
Yes, we have
that is fucking ridiculous. Okay.
Yes.
So that's your first step that you have to go through. So what do you have to do with your body and with your brain and with your heart to release you from these crazy restrictions that you're putting on yourself? For me, that's weightlifting. That's hiking. That's walking. That's really being conscious about what I'm putting in my body. I like to be a certain weight. I like to be a certain size. This is how I feel empowered in my body. This is not the same for everybody. I know I have a ton of friends who are perfectly fine being bigger than I would want to be. And they are queens in their body and they wear whatever they want. But I had to find what worked for me and then own it.
Yeah.
And the owning it is the big part. That's the big piece. Because if you are willing to own it, then you also have to be willing to do the work. If you don't like something that's going on with your body or in your life, because we know this is all bleeds together, then are you also willing to do the work to change it? Because it's through the process of taking the step forward to do the work. That's how you become empowered. It's not at the end when you actually get there. It's
so true. Yeah.
It's loving yourself enough to take the step.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to be in education and, and every year at the beginning of the year, they were going to have Biggest Loser competition, and I never did it, recovering from anorexia. So that wasn't my thing, but I had to stay so focused and I had to block those things out, women talking. And, but I remember this one conversation with this woman. It's like, I've got 15 pounds to go. I just need to lose it. I don't like the way I look. I hate my body. I need to be done with it. Everything will be fine after 15 pounds. And I was like, that's not true, because hundreds and thousands of people with anorexia will tell you that's not true.
Right.
You can lose all the weight.
But okay, but can I just play devil's advocate here?
Sure.
That could be her truth.
Yes, it could. I will say
it's not that she's going to win the lottery and, find the man of her dreams after this 15 pounds comes on. But for her, maybe she will feel a lot better in her body after she loses this 15 pounds. Her energy will shift and she'll be able to attract the things that she wants to attract.
You're right. Right? I will say, yes, I will say she lost it. She was still unhappy. So there was, but you are right. And because yeah, I have to remember that, it's individualized, it's
Yeah.
so.
There's women that I work with, because I've been doing training in nutrition for years. I've transformed hundreds of bodies. And there is a universal truth.
Okay.
Which is why I'm passionate about this work and spreading this message of finding what it is that you really want for your body, and then making it happen. And don't be afraid of it, and don't make excuses, and don't feel like, guilty for wanting something more for yourself. But it's the fact that when I see women prioritize their health and fitness, and they're doing something for themselves, and they are changing their bodies, and they're doing something they probably thought or tried to do 100 times, but this time they're actually doing it. They've created the space, and they've gotten the right education, and they're making it happen. Universal truth. All of these other areas of their life, they start to change if they don't like them. So different communication with their husband, different communication with their boss. It's universal. It's when they take ownership of their body, and in turn their life, they can start shifting all of these other things. And it's such a simple thing.
Because like you said, the empowerment happens on the journey, not the end result.
Yes.
That's just huge.
Picking up the reins and saying, I'm doing this. That's it.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you said when we talked earlier, and then you kind of said it now, we want to be beautiful, and yet we don't want to feel superficial, or we want to feel like, we are wise, we're leaders, we want to be these healthy moms to our daughters. And so I loved your answer. And I'm like, do you remember?
Yes,
do I need
of course I do, because I live this. Okay.
Yes.
I live. So here I am. If you're watching this, okay, you'll see that I did my hair. I have my makeup on. I have my nails done. Okay. So I'm a feminist. I'm a proud feminist. Okay.
Yes.
And I don't necessarily I don't like the rules of society. I don't like that men don't have to, and we do.
Yes.
I don't like raising daughters in that society. My daughter comes in the shower, I'm shaving my armpits, and my immediate thought is like, just so you know, you don't have to do this.
Yes.
Okay. Like, this is my body, and this is what makes me feel comfortable, but like, you don't have to do this. Like, I am woke. I like to think that I'm woke. Okay.
I know that conversation.
Okay. But here's the thing. I'm going to do what makes me feel best. Because when I am feeling best, regardless if it's this amalgam of my childhood and all my previous experiences of what that best is, I have to do what makes me feel best. Because when I feel my best, I'm going to do my best. My vibration is going to be higher. And what we spoke on in the call before is when I was trying to release you from feeling bad about, I think you said you put on makeup for an event and you were like questioning putting on that makeup.
Yeah.
So what I was saying to you is that we are energy, we are soul having a human experience. And so when we entered into this human experience, we got into it with knowing that we were going to do all the human things. And this little piece of appearance or makeup or how we look in these humanly bodies is a huge part of that human experience. And so there is no shame in trying to fulfill that human experience by doing your hair and feeling good and putting on makeup sometimes and feeling feminine. Now, granted, most of the time I walk around not looking like this. Yeah. But I knew I was going to be on camera, I was like, okay, people are going to see this. I'm going to try a little bit, right? So this is what made me feel good for me. In my everyday life, I have no problem not wearing makeup and going to the gym or grocery store. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
This is what works for me. So we all have to find what works for ourselves. And if putting on a little lip gloss and mascara and foundation makes you feel good because you're just about to talk to some people and meet some people you don't know, why wouldn't you do it? This is a part of the human experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? Oh, because we're feminists? Like, because we don't want to send that message? It's not about that. It's about our life and feeling good in our body.
Yeah. You keep coming back to do what's right for you. I'm going to
Yes.
take care of me. You guys take care of you. And then let's not compare,
Right.
because
Right.
we're in two different lives. We just, I think, and I
Right.
think that's a lot of times what trips a lot of women up. Because if I will dress up for something, but then I see women around me that didn't, I'm like, did I overdress? And
Yeah.
I'm able to kind of calm down, Heather, but I think that that's a women often, we give each other the once over and we compare. And if we could all just be like, no, I'm doing what's right for me. And
Well,
please.
I mean, that can be said for so many things. I mean, I remember, so when I started my mothering journey in LA in the South Bay,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone's in LA is pretty like crunchy in a way, like it's okay not to wear makeup, and like we're all feeding our kids organic food, and like none of our kids tried sugar. Like it was just kind of like a normal way of life.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved into Riverside County and I wanted to make new mom friends, and I felt like shameful that like I was only serving organic food to my children, and they didn't have screen time and like things like that. It was like I almost
Yeah.
had to keep it as a secret, because as a woman,
Keep it
whoever
a
we're
secret.
around, we want to like vibe with them. It's our in
Mm-hmm.
our it's natural for us to want to befriend other women. I think it's like from hundreds of years ago. It's like we
Mm-hmm.
want to create this group of women that are our people, and we
Yeah.
want to get along with them, and we want to create like a what is the word I'm thinking of? Like a family type
Yeah.
kind of energy with them. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's like our natural inclination to do that. And so when we see a group, we want to be like them,
Yeah.
because, but I mean, it's part of our evolution that we will, continue to see differences as strengths. That's where we're going,
Yes. Yes. Differences as strengths. Yes. So, okay. Tell me then, if you had to define beauty for yourself, what would that definition be?
That is a great question. I mean, immediately what comes to mind as soon as you said that is beauty is a feeling, and of beauty is feeling free.
Oh, beauty is feeling free. Free from free from expectation, just free in your body.
And from your own expectations. I think we're our own worst enemies.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know
Is
I
there?
think, because I look around and I see, I mean, have you ever met somebody and they they look like maybe like kind of an average looking person or something, and then you get to know them or you hang out with them, and suddenly they become like one of the most beautiful people that you've
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
So beauty is seeing somebody's soul, because if you actually take the time to actually see someone's soul, I mean, you cannot not see a beautiful person.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so great. I love that. You cannot not see a beautiful person. So, I have a couple of questions and let me figure out which one I
Yes.
want to ask first.
I was
Is
trying to
there?
remember our conversation because we had such good points during our conversation, and I'm having trouble recalling them because I'm flowing with you.
I love it. I love the energy. So is there a part of your story that still sticks with you that you still have to be very aware and conscious of to work through, like a part of a struggle?
I think because of bodybuilding, you have a stage weight that you need to hit. And then there's a general rule that you want to stay within like 10 pounds of the stage weight, which is ridiculous because you're only on stage for like 3 minutes. And that is how long your body looks like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you are training for that moment in time.
Mhm.
So as a bodybuilder, I think, obviously bodybuilding and doing these kinds of competitions is not for somebody that's had an eating disorder or anything like that. But I think for me, something that I am very conscious of is like weighing myself in front of my daughter. I only weigh myself once a week if I'm trying to like lose weight or something. Cause right now I'm still in the process of getting the baby weight off because I had a baby in the middle of the pandemic. So just like going through this journey of like, okay, now another weight loss journey. This time I've been very conscious of just like, what am I eating in front of my older daughter? How am I talking about food in front of my other daughter, my older daughter? Especially this, and this is something I work on with my clients too, is taking ownership over your choice to lose weight.
Okay.
And not using destructive language like can't. Because as soon as we say, I can't eat that, or mommy can't eat that, then it's like we're breaking a rule or somebody has some kind of force over us. Whereas if it's a little elevated to say, and even for me, it's a little elevated to say, I'm choosing not to eat that. But I can say, I don't want that right now. I'm fine. I'm going to eat this instead.
Yeah. Simple.
Yeah. But I mean, for me, that's the work that I'm doing. That's where I'm at, is that's the work that I'm doing, is to continue to take ownership over the choices I'm making.
Yeah.
Every step of the way. And to make sure that she sees that as well.
So important. So, if you could just give women like just one little bit of guidance when it comes to learning how to step into your beauty or understanding that you've got it. What would you say?
As soon as you were talking, I thought about this other piece that I wanted to tell you. Will you ask me that after? Okay. So when you were speaking on, wearing the makeup and all of that kind of thing, it made me think about that there's this movement right now, and it's body positivity. And the movement itself is great because it's telling you to be positive about your body, and like, what's wrong with that? That sounds fantastic. But the problem is that the message is kind of saying like, you need to be happy where you're at.
Okay.
And so I find this to be more in the realm of toxic positivity, because if you aren't happy with where you're at and that is not authentic to you, then again, you're feeling less than, because you can't be met there. Right. So you need to understand that you can feel positive about your body, and that ultimate body positivity is actually saying, I love myself enough to make the change and to do the work. And I think that kind of goes back to the question that you just asked me, which is love yourself enough to know the difference between you settling, and you wanting to change, and just maybe that work feels really heavy for you, but you're strong enough. You're strong enough. Look what you've been through. You're definitely strong enough to do the work so that you feel good in your body, because we only have this body right now. That's it. This is the only one we get. And we put women put so much energy into making these like beautiful homes. I mean, have you been on Instagram?
Yes.
These like gorgeous homes. Okay. Or their children are always dressed to the nines, and they're always taking them their practices, and they're taking their beautiful family photos. And, we get in and out of these, expensive automobiles and all of these things, but we only have this one body.
Yeah.
So if you're not happy in this body and you have all these other things dialed in, there's something that you are avoiding. And you need to tune into it. You need to fix it, because until you do, it will just be hanging over you. You won't be able to move on. You won't be able to get into your own personal evolution. Like, what is the next stage for you? You won't be able to get there until you handle this.
I love that. That's so good. That's so good. It's so real. It's freeing, which is what your definition of beauty is. I love that so much. Okay. So last question, when women hear your story, what's something that you hope resonates with them that they can kind of carry with them as they're, changing from I can't to I'm going to love myself enough to do this. And in this journey of becoming empowered as they are able to take the reins and, go, what is just this one thing that you hope that they pull from your story?
I hope that when someone hears my story, that they realize that their thing, whatever their thing is, if they have a thing, can be dealt with. And I hope that their journey is not as long or as tedious as mine was. And that maybe they have to do a little bit less work to overcome it. Mm-hmm. And I hope that if there is somebody listening that is currently a prisoner in their own body, that they will feel empowered by this conversation and want to change it and realize that life is too friggin' short to be feeling that way anymore.
Yeah.
And it's not just going to disappear either. We're not going to manifest it away.
Yeah.
What you are currently manifesting is the solution. You're currently manifesting the tools to rid you of this problem. That's what you're manifesting if you're trying to manifest this problem disappearing, because we cannot manifest in the negative. But what you are attracting are the tools to help you, right?
Right.
So you're listening to this for a reason. If this is speaking to you, you are here for a reason, and you're listening to this for a reason. And that reason is to tell you, you can change it. You're strong enough to change it. Do whatever it takes. Do whatever it takes, my friend.
Thank you, Tristan. Thank you so much. This is, I don't have the words to describe.
Oh, stop
No, for real, because
say this to all the girls.
No, at 45, I am empowered and I am a feminist and I have no problem going without makeup. And I do work out, but it always comes back. There's still part of me that a struggle, like it's okay to want to be beautiful. That's my struggle.
It's okay.
It is.
You are. And so I think that you are, just in general, you are a very attractive woman. So there's obviously something else there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is, I separated it in the 5th grade. I mean, I just remember looking at myself in the mirror and going, you are not pretty enough for middle school, because my idea of beauty was very similar to yours.
Okay.
Small and thin and blonde and attractive to boys.
And boobs.
And I was the smaller of the sibling growing up, and that was how I was referred to, and that became my identity. And then it was like, when you hold on to something so tight, there's no other room for anything else to grow. And that is what I held onto, was be small, be small, be small, be small. And there was no room for any other development or to explore who I was or the essence of myself. And that, I almost ended my life in my mid-30s because I wanted to be beautiful, but yet I have a daughter and and so listening to someone that has gone through their journey and that says, well, of course you want to be beautiful. Why not? Embrace that. It's just, I think every woman just really needs to sit down and just talk to another woman about it's okay.
Well, that's why you're here. That's why you're here doing this, right?
Yeah.
You're the one having the conversation. So other women can tune in and hear this. If they can't have that conversation on a personal level, then you are there to have that conversation. To facilitate that.
And I didn't plan to share all this with you, but I really wanted you to understand how much your words just really resonated with me. And therefore and my story is, I'm not being degrading, but I'm not anybody spectacular. So, if it's happened to me, then it can happen to anybody. And so it's going to be a very freeing podcast.
Oh, good. You are spectacular. We all shine the same.
We
all
all,
shine the same. It's just, what are we going to do with our power? And you choosing to share your power and your vulnerability in this way makes you spectacular. There are
I appreciate that.
there are so many people just sitting on their gifts. I have this mentor right now. I hired my first mentor.
Good for you.
And
so important.
yeah. Well, they're like, it's so important, but then you're like, how do I get one? I don't understand.
And law of attraction, you know?
Exactly. So I found her, and I took like a little intro kind of boot camp from her. And she told me this. And as I'm writing my book, like, this is what I'm thinking the whole time I'm writing my book. Because I'm writing a book right now on self-care for mothers.
Oh,
and how you need to prioritize your self-care. Like, it's basically what it is.
So needed.
Yes. And I'm trying to say it in like a sexy way so people will grab the book off the shelf when it comes out. But I mean, everything it's just like pouring out of me. Like, I'm downloading straight from source, and I'm just like, yes. Yeah. Like, whenever I have an opportunity to write, that's what it feels like.
Awesome.
So she said, and I feel like such a Nimrod for like never hearing this before, but she was saying, do you know, this is like a famous quote, so you probably already heard it, but I love other people's words, so I was surprised that I hadn't. And she was saying, do you know what this is like a famous quote, do you know what the richest place in the world is? No, it's a cemetery, because so many people die without writing that song or writing that book or being in that play, and I was just like, ugh. And then she was like, you want to die empty.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, I'm going to cry right now saying this, because I have so much in me that I want to get out there, and I want to die empty. And it's like, are we just going to sit around and just like wait for it to happen? No, you got to grab the bull by the balls. You got to sit down and write that book. You got to write that song. You got to do that podcast. You got to have these conversations. So but this is your way of dying empty. Probably one of your many ways. So you're having those conversations that maybe we can't have in person, so you're having them virtually.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, that's another. We want to die empty. I'd never heard of that.
I mean, I never have it written in places. I'm like, die empty. What am I doing?
I love that. All right, and on that note, thank you so much, Tristan.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, so great. And we will be in touch, okay?
Yay, I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. You take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.